Hi, this is Alessio. Hope you're well, and welcome to another update on Bitcoin. We're going to look at one of my favorite indicators, probably one of the coolest indicators out there. I call this my time machine indicator. And actually, believe it or not, it kind of is like a time machine. I'll explain to you why in a few moments. By the way, in a few moments, I'm going to show you this chart as well and show you what this potentially could mean as well. So there are three reasons why I love this indicator. Firstly, is because it just looks great on a chart. The second reason is because it literally does exactly what I'm talking about. It projects into the future projections about time resistance. I'll explain to you what time resistance is in a few moments. But we can actually visually see into the future what potentially the next time resistance levels are, the next potential major hurdles in the market. So we actually have a projection of a date in advance into the future. The third reason why I love this indicator is because I'm obsessed with time travel. If you, like me, read a lot of books by Stephen Hawking, or if you watch a lot of science fiction films, then you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so before I explain to you what this whole time resistance on Bitcoin is showing to us, let me first of all give you some background. So this stuff is quite interesting. Okay, firstly, the leading expert on time analysis is a lady called Carolyn Borden. And here's what she says. She says, when we see trading parameters on both the time and price axis, okay, so both price and time, come together at the same time, we are looking at our highest probability, lowest risk trade setups in the marketplace. Okay, so that's a very important point to remember. Then she says, I find that when both the time and price, so again, very important what she's saying here, both the time and price, not just time alone, but when they come together. So I find when both time and price parameters come together at the same time, the odds for a market reversal are much higher than usual. Okay, so it's about probabilities and it's about increasing the odds in our favor. She says, when I see a grouping of timing cycles come together, I watch for a reversal of whatever the market is doing into those cycles. I'll show you an example of this in a few moments. So if you think about it, time resistance is like a wall. It's like a wall of resistance the price goes into. Another way to think about it is like time resistance as an iceberg. You know, think of a ship that's moving towards an iceberg, and that ship has to actually change course, has to reverse and move out of the way from the time resistance or the iceberg, if you think about it that way. So let me just show you what I'm talking about here as an example. So on this example, you can see on this chart, notice the price here is rallying, hits price resistance. There's a price resistance here, as a matter of fact. In fact, here's the bit you want to pay attention to. Moves into price resistance, but in combination with time resistance. So we got a cluster of timing cycles come together. And what the indicator does, what the time power projection indicator does, is that when we see a clustering effect of timing cycles, it shows to us the time resistance as this triangular formation, this power projection with the peak. And you can see what happened next. The price then eventually dropped. Okay, dropped from here. Then when price dropped, it hit another support level with time power projection, time resistance. And here you can see it bounced off and rallied from here. Okay. By the way, here's an example for you on Bitcoin. You might remember last year, in July of last year, we talked about this in one of our videos. And I showed in my video, look, Bitcoin is approaching, this was mid-July, I think it was. In the middle of July, we had a time power projection. We had a timing cluster coming together. Now, Bitcoin was actually moving slowly into this power projection. And what did it do next? It quickly rallied higher. Of course, the rally on Bitcoin didn't last for very long, but it did the job in any case. So bottom line is, guys, again, the best way to think about it is as a wall of resistance, time resistance like a wall of resistance or an iceberg. And let's see what we got here on our chart. Actually, before I come to this chart, let me show you this first of all. Here's an example for you on gold, on the gold chart. So this is quite interesting, quite fascinating. And actually, we can actually appreciate this much more on this chart. For example, you will see over here that gold was slowly dropping into this support level. And look what happened. It hit support with time power projection, this red power projection. And you can see what happened immediately afterwards. Gold prices rallied strongly higher. Notice, as gold continued to go higher and higher, where did it hit? It hit a resistance level on price. That's the trend line. You can see this trend line resistance right over here. But remember, we combine price resistance with time resistance. And what do we have down here? Right over here, we got time resistance, you can see here. So we had price resistance and time resistance come together. And what did gold do? Gold dropped quite heavily. It fell into this trend line again. Notice again, it fell in this trend line, support, this red line, with time power projection, time resistance. And again, what did gold do? Rallied strongly higher. Now, let's turn our attention to the chart here on Bitcoin. And I have here my time power projection cycles. Firstly, before I discuss these future projections over here, take a look at this one over here. So notice what Bitcoin was doing just quite recently. Bitcoin rallied strongly, as we know. Look what it did. Bitcoin hit a level of resistance, which we know as the Fibonacci 61.8% Fibonacci retracement. There it is at 52.53. And notice as price hit this level of price resistance, we also had time resistance, time power projection. As you can see, we had a clustering of time relationships coming together, forming this time power projection. And you can see what happened afterwards. Essentially, it hit an iceberg and price stalled. Actually, it fell slightly when it's going sideways right now. So what does it mean about these future time projections that we're seeing here? So first of all, let me show you. The first projection that we're getting here into this time window that you're seeing here, I call this a time window, or if you want to call it some kind of time resistance, time projection. This is actually between the 30th of April. This is between the 30th of April and the 2nd or 1st of May. Okay, so this blue rectangular levels is the resistance levels between the 30th of April and the 1st of May. This second one that you're seeing here, this second orange time power projection, which is based on this time projection you're seeing here. Again, another clustering effect happening over here. This is towards the middle of May. So more or less 19th of May to the 21st of May is the second projection. Okay, so very interesting.
Into the future.
Now the question is, how do we interpret this? Firstly, you have to appreciate that these time resistance levels are non-directional. They do not have any directional bias at the moment. The way we use it, as Carolyn Borden was saying a few moments ago, is like this. So let me just give you an example. Imagine, for example, that Bitcoin prices, let's say Bitcoin has made a top round about here. And let's say Bitcoin continues to move lower, okay? And then suddenly it makes a rally, starts to make a rally again, hits this resistance level. This is a linear regression channel, by the way, into this time power projection. In other words, near the end of April, beginning of May. Okay, so imagine this kind of scenario. As Bitcoin rallies into this resistance, price resistance with time resistance, this could act as a major inflection point, a major turning point, causing Bitcoin prices to drop. Now, let's say, for example, Bitcoin prices drop here and then rally again into the next hurdle. Let's say the next resistance, price and time coming together. And this once again acts as another resistance or turning point, or inflection point, and price drops again. Okay, I hope this makes more sense. Now, another way to think about it is like this. Let's imagine another hypothetical scenario. So a different hypothetical scenario would be something along this line. Imagine, for example, that Bitcoin has not made a top here. Okay, let's say, for example, that Bitcoin continues to rally higher and takes out the previous highs. Again, hypothetical example. And let's say as it goes up higher and higher, hits another resistance level, so another price resistance level combined with time resistance. And what happens? This increases the probability, increases the odds that Bitcoin could potentially find another turning point, inflection point, and drop. Let's say it drops over here into another support level and combined with, again, time resistance. This could produce a temporary bounce in the price of Bitcoin. All right. And yet, once again, this bounce potentially fails and drops into another support level. All right, guys, so that's another way to think about it. By the way, I just want to make it very clear. I do not think that these resistance levels, these time power projection, and indeed these time resistance levels, I don't think they're indicating a bottom in the price of Bitcoin. I'm referring to a major bottom in the price of Bitcoin, a long-term bottom. I don't think it's likely. I think a major long-term bottom potentially could form later in the year, potentially, maybe by the second half of this year, but I don't think it's likely that in the next couple of months, we're going to form a major bottom in the price of Bitcoin. It's much more likely to be warning of a potential top or a temporary inflection point in the price of Bitcoin. And by the way, guys, you can get this indicator also on this link you see here, which is also in the description box, which is leadingtrader.com/time. All right, guys, hope this video helps. And if it has, please give it a thumbs up and also please subscribe for future updates. Thanks a lot.